Welcome back to Chaps Many Cultures, episode 111, and we're talking about names. What's in a name? What's the importance of names? What happens when people get our names right? And what effect can it have on our lives in general? We're here to talk about that. Stick around. Yes, welcome back, folks. It's Brett and Christian, or Christian.
Christian.
This is the show of the business of culture and the culture of business. Two Chaps, Many Cultures. If you like what you hear and see, mostly what you hear, I can't vouch for what you see. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Do us a favor, share it out to your friends, and like us wherever your favorite platform is. How are you today, pal?
I am fantastic. Thank you for asking. How are you doing, Brett?
I'm fantastic too. Wonderful.
Wonderful. Did I get your name right?
You did.
Okay, good.
Now, unless I get you to spell it, that this is the only problem I have with my name mainly.
Really?
I'm a 2T guy. Some people are 1T. We don't worry about them.
Well, and depending on whether you talk to somebody from New Zealand, they will call you Brit, right?
Yeah, and a lot worse.
Yeah. I recognize the power of names or the lack of power of names. First time I left my home country and people pronounced my name not the way my friends and family pronounced it. And I thought, that's interesting. How does that make me feel? Will I like being called that way? So my parents and my friends and family, in the German language, my name is pronounced Christian. And my high school buddies in the US and the host family that I stayed with, they called me Christian. There was a lot of sounds in it that I was not ready for yet. And I was like, do I like this? I understand that this is the English pronunciation of my name. Is this what I want to be called? And then they had other ways of calling me in high school. They called me Chris, which is an abbreviation of my name. And nobody ever had called me that. And I wondered, do I like that? So, I mean, to me at that point, it was kind of silly. I didn't pay too much attention to it. But now in hindsight, I think, I did question whether people really saw the true me by calling me by, yes, my name, but in variations that up to that point I didn't recognize as me, right? So has that ever have similar things happen to you?
I don't usually get my name wrong. It's a matter of, it's a small thing, but it's a matter of when people read it on an email with my last name, I often get called Parry because it seems to kind of run together. That's a whole different conversation. I think the perception of how much attention we pay to what's in front of our eyes. But I think that in terms of there's a lot of situationality with names, and you're right. So in the setting, just like we talk about with all culture, sometimes in the setting you're in, understanding that the people you're around do things that way, are used to doing things that way, and therefore how much do you push back against their proclivity for not getting your name wrong, but getting your name in the way that sounds right to them, and possibly even the way their mouth works. Obviously, being embedded in the Polish community, getting names right in the Polish community and the language that is made up of the last four letters of the alphabet can be a little bit difficult. But it is surprising how much when I get a name, because I can pronounce the names, when I get it right for Polish people, it tends to surprise them because I'm not Polish. Because obviously there's a lot of, and even, just through descendants, people that have been through second, third generations here from that community have changed the way they've just given up. They've just gone, you know what?
That's something. I mean, I'm not Polish, but my last name, my German family name, is almost, I'm saying almost impossible to pronounce for English native speakers. So as you can see here, I spell it the way it is in my birth certificate, right? I did not anglicize the spelling of my name, deliberately so, because no matter how I spell it, how much I adjust spelling of my name to my environment, I still have to spell it out. I say my name, or even if I anglicize my last name, if I try to pronounce it, which I don't, if I try to pronounce it the way that English speakers do, they still ask me, how do you spell that? And once I recognize I'm going to have to spell my name regardless to whoever is taking it down, I might as well use the old spelling. And I know it's hard to reproduce that letter on a English keyboard, and yet I don't care. I made it a point to maintain that. Whether my daughters will do the same, I'm not so sure. I fairly doubt it. I recognize even that when my kids give their names in public to, I don't know, at the school or wherever they have to say their name, they sometimes, in my book, mispronounce it in an English bastardized way, which makes me cringe, right? Like, what did you call yourself just now? Is that the name? Well, what happened? So I understand that from generation to generation, especially as immigrants, this may get diluted a little bit. And this has been the story for immigrants to other countries around the world for millennia, right? So this is not necessarily new. And yet I still think that names are part of our identity in a way, right? So there's a history to our family. Maybe there is a history of how, whether it's significant to others or not, but it's significant to our families, right?
Right, in terms of surnames, yeah, and that's why you see a lot of more formal cultures. Actually, the last name is the identifier. Some Asian cultures that switched around. Yep. So and it's of course of bringing in the concept of situational cultures as well, where the Asian, a lot of people from China might have a Western name. They apply a Western name to themselves to either make it easier for the person, for the external global markets they're working in, because of that pronunciation. But they can still retain their last name, which is actually the most important thing they would use first when people refer to them in that home culture. So it's kind of not so much of an identifier in that case. And then, there's that the research has shown that there is that cocktail effect. When you're in a crowded room and you hear your own name, your eyes prick up. There is something that happens in your brain similar to when you look yourself in the mirror. There is this self-identifier, which is really a powerful thing for people. Yeah. So, of course, when we're working with clients and we're saying that, really at the basis of, I guess we might personally call it respect, but it is a cultural thing, to actually take the time to learn the names of your colleagues and do your very best to pronounce it the right way and get over the fear of doing it wrong. You will probably do it wrong, but it is the effort to do that that builds a relationship in many other cultures.
Yeah, this is something that I've made a point over the years to, before I address people whose name I don't know how to pronounce properly, I make it a point to ask them, how do you pronounce your name, or how do your parents, does your family pronounce your name? And then hopefully I can get an approximation of doing it correctly. What I found interesting, though, is when I'm in groups of people of 3 or more, and the majority of people pronounce my name in the language or in the pronunciation of the environment that I'm in. But there's this one person in the group who recognizes my linguistic identity and just so happens to pronounce my name the way I would say it. So it just happened a week ago, right? So there's like 6 or 7 people in the room. Everybody says Christian, except for this one guy who keeps saying Christian. And sure, as you said, my attention goes up every time he did it. And I was waiting for the others to pick up on that. Do they or don't they? How is that affecting group dynamic, right? And I was surprised to recognize that nobody changed their pronunciation whatsoever.
But they just sat there and went, guy he keeps getting that wrong. They probably
Yes.
I wonder how Christian feels about that.
Right. And I mean, the Christian is, I guess, in the Western world fairly easy, and that there's not a lot of complications around that. But start with my last name, and then we're gonna have deeper conversations around how names affect or don't affect. And there's a little bit of a personal story to my family name, which caused some rift in the family, even without crossing cultures. So when my wife and I decided to get married, I was willing to give up my last name to take on hers, because she is one of 3 girls in her family, and she was the youngest of the 3. The older sisters had already been married off, and they had already taken their husband's name. I have a younger brother, so I thought, hey, no big deal. I'll take my wife's name. My brother can carry our family name on, so would be a good thing to do, right? Or I didn't even think about it too much, which probably was a mistake, because my parents almost lost their marbles, especially my father. And we had to, this was an ongoing family dispute until I finally did some soul searching together with my now wife, and we decided to go with my last name. But it cost for, or it triggered a intergenerational conflict resolution just around the name. So it was, but names have more power than we might allow them, or that we think we give them.
Absolutely. I'm also brought to just now thinking about this, how popular giving nicknames has been in my culture of Australia.
So
there
what's
are
your
some
nickname?
Yeah, well, Bertie.
Bertie?
Bert.
Okay.
And this is the name that was given to me by my cricket playing mates, So, and that's basically how they refer to me, Bertie the Beetle, right? It became this kind of identifier that only in that particular setting, in those settings, the people that knew me, did they call me that. And then that became a community in and of itself. To the extent that a lot of people that I played cricket with, I think if I did a poll of a lot of people, which is a large group of people over, many years of playing the sport, that we do have this identifier for each other, and some people may not even remember what the original name of the person is.
Yes.
And I see that I play cricket here in this country too, with a small group of English people and New Zealand people, and we have a proclivity for nicknames as well. And that's basically how we identify each other, written and verbal communication. And on the field, I mean, the other opposition teams must think we're nuts, the things that we call each other.
Then it becomes kind of a code language too, right? So it
does.
And I did a kind of tongue-in-cheek fun thing a couple of days ago on social media, because my nickname was given to me as it's rarely given. We rarely give ourselves our nicknames, right? It's usually the groups that we hang out with. So many of my friends back in high school, they abbreviated my last name, because in my German subculture, it's still in outside of the big cities, it's still quite common that people, especially male buddies, even females address each other in a kind of semi-aggressive, jesting way by their last names. Hey, Höferle.
Right.
So instead of hey Christian, they call me hey Höferle, what's up? Right. So, and they abbreviated my last name to Höf. So in my friend circles, I'm the Höf.
Yeah.
So not to be confused with the Hoff. Right. So it's don't
eating hamburgers on the floor.
Right. So it's I sing better, and I don't dance on crumbling walls. So it's
careful now. We're gonna have. You said that in public. We have to hold.
Yes. Hey, I think I'm sober more than this guy, but okay. Yeah. But maybe that's the best part for the thing. In any case, so I'm the Höf and he's the Hoff. So this is a nickname I didn't like, right? I thought this is corny, and I don't like my last name anyway, because it sounds stupid when they call me that, but it sticks. So what can you do, right?
Right.
And sometimes names can even be either a door opener or an obstacle. Just before we started this episode, I pulled out a book from the shelf. Let me hold it in the camera so everybody can see it. It's been out for a while, Freakonomics. If you haven't read it yet, you might enjoy it. And the authors of that book make interesting sociological observations, but through the lens of economists. So they observe societal phenomenon, not by how humans act on psychological or personality impulses, but on what's the economic gain. What follow the money? What's happening here, right?
Mm.
So they look at how names might actually, be a door opener or door closer, especially when you are applying for a job. So if you are in the United States and you apply for a certain position, and your name might give an indication as to your ethnicity or your family's ethnic background, then that could either hurt you or help you in landing that job, right? Which is arguably not a good thing.
Right.
What do you think?
These are all negative biases that have been imposed through the society, and they are endemic to this society. You know that many societies where a name gives you a boundary to jump across more than perhaps other people. So.
Yeah.
And it's not a matter of telling, and accusing people of a negative thing. This is a natural thing that humans do, but identifying it and understanding it and trying to do any work that you can with yourself first. Obviously, we always talk about that, in putting those biases aside and understanding that the person behind the name is a full functioning human being with wonderful talents and abilities. And you could be missing out on some really wonderful opportunities if you just use somebody's name to identify them, whether it be written, whether it be verbal. Yeah.
So how do you go about a first interaction with somebody whose name you're not sure of? So what would be some questions or approaches that you have found to be helpful?
Yeah, I like that. What did your parents call you?
Okay.
When you were late for dinner, right? Now that may not have been their natural name, but there are some cultures that do like the informality of a shortened version, or in some languages, like even the Polish language, the version, then the informal version of the name is often longer than the formal name, the version of the name. But if you have built a relationship, and this gets to not only just the name identifier, but also at what point are we at in the relationship, open that gate to understand, is this an informal interaction, or now can I kind of let my guard down a little bit and work together? So there's actually more tools in the toolkit in just using the name as an identifier. If somebody says that my name is Christian, I'm going to use that intentionally. I would be more like your friend to do that, But again, with your name, when I talk about you with other people, do I do it in your presence without your presence? I don't, because they might look at me strange and go, "What are you calling him that?"
Exactly.
That is so it's very situational, and I guess doing the work we do, we tend to be situational. We understand that,
And that's a good point you're making here. That depending on the context or the recipient of the communication, how do you pronounce it? And the same is true for names of places, right? So do you call the capital of Poland? How do you call it in English? Warsaw, and in Polish you call it
Warsaw in English.
and in Polish,
Warszawa.
See, right. So
yeah.
you wouldn't say Warszawa in an English language conversation, likely, right?
Or Krakow, Krakow, Krakow.
Yeah, or Munich, München, right? Or and I catch myself that I sometimes deliberately try to pronounce the names of places in the language of that country. and it makes me sound super pretentious.
Hmm.
So getting it right can sometimes backfire, right? Because others might think, oh, why is he saying it that way? Is he some kind of super special, or what is who does he think he is, right?
Yeah.
So it's, as you said, context matters. Context matters.
Situational matters.
So we would like to find out from you if you have a good name, a really, really good name, which we think you do. You have a perfect name for you. Let us know if the environments that you've been in have been supportive of your name identity, or if you found it to be challenging here and there. And maybe let's have some fun with it. If you're willing to have fun with yourself, then let us know what the mispronunciations may have been. So I'm going to give you an example. So my last name in German sounds like this, Höferle. And the variations I heard of it is Höferle, hopefully, Höferle. So those are just a few, right? And all of them sound silly to my ears. So go ahead. Let us know how people butchered your names, and let's set the record straight about who you are and what your name is.
And then there's the old joke, you can call us anything except late for dinner. And that be the end of that.
Oh, God. Episode 111. I love this. Thank you, Brett. You have a wonderful work day and work week. We'll see each other tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow for episode 112. Check it out. We'll post it on the socials, when and who and how and all the other good stuff. Thank you. Ciao for now.
Thanks, mate. Bye.